Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Be With Me, episode 257. And being a Christian is a very challenging thing. It is a high call. There's all kinds of things in the Christian walk that you can do wrong. Sexuality comes to mind. Idolatry comes to mind. And in today's passage, a huge thing that we all have the opportunity to do wrong is money, stuff, possessions. So I'm titling today Possessed by Possessions, which is not a good thing. We're in Luke chapter 12, and it's the parable of the rich fool. And I will begin. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. And he told him a parable, saying, The land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this, I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store all my grain and goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. So this story starts, someone in the crowd says, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. So it comes on the heels of a stressful situation, which is the death. Someone has to die for there to be inheritance. It's probably a parent, might be a relative, but probably a parent. And it is apparently an unequal inheritance, which is very cultural for that time. Primogeniture, which means that the oldest son gets 100% of the inheritance, very common. Also in Jewish land, the oldest son would get a double portion of the inheritance. So this is a stressful thing. You have a dead person. Even the dying person knows that an inheritance can be a stressful period of time. The siblings should know it and should be careful of it. It's a certain moment in time in a family where a family order is disrupted, so you may have generational order turn into generational chaos. You probably all can have stories about that or stories you've heard. The second thing is that generational wealth can turn into, as in this case, generational want. Verse 14 talks about Jesus being judge, which is funny because he's given all authority, all judgment, but Jesus really refrained from getting down in the nitty-gritty of judging like our earthly judges do, like over families. So he asked the question, who made me judge or arbitrator over you? And my response to that would be, I think you did, Jesus, at least the way that I'm understanding it. Anyway, that's not the whole point of the story. The point is, verse 15, take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. So welcome to America. This podcast is coming from America. And he's saying that life does not consist in the abundance of your possession. It's not about the size of your bank account or the amount of portable property that you have, or the funny saying is the one with the most toys wins. And Jesus is specifically saying in this passage that one with the most toys does not win. In fact, if someone says at your funeral, man, he had a lot of possessions, or man, she had a lot of stuff, that is an indictment. That is not a compliment. That is an indictment against you. More does not equal better. So what is covetousness? It's wanting stuff that others have, or wanting stuff that the world has. I want to just turn attention to 1 Timothy chapter 6, which says something about this. This is 6:9, 1 Timothy 6:9. Those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. So the words cannot be stronger. It's a person that desires to be rich here. It talks about the love of money. Money is a great thing. It's the love of money that's the problem. And it talks about how it can be a snare and a senseless desire and harmful desires and plunge you into ruin and destruction, the root of all kinds of evils. So if love of money, love of stuff is your root, then anything can grow from that tree. And it can even cause, these cravings can cause people to affect their faith. And it's self-harm. It's piercing yourself. So this passage calls one to live with the end in mind. And eventually it's going to tell us to use things for life and for the Lord and not for oneself. And the soundbite that kind of came to me about this was, don't be used by things. Don't be possessed by possessions. And certainly the passages say, don't be possessed by a passion for possessions. So this story, which I want to talk about tomorrow, because today is going to be all bad news. There's not enough time for the good news. It's a tragedy by possessions. This guy hurls himself into ruin for this and judgment. So what does life consist of if it's not in stuff? So the sobering thing is everybody gets an opportunity to do this wrong, and everybody gets an opportunity to do this right. So Jesus talks about money. We haven't talked a lot about it in this particular podcast series just because we haven't come up to passages about it. But here we go. Let's not be one who is possessed by possessions. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll talk about some good news. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.